Brian, do you want to hear my 10 super top secret tips?
You know it.
Welcome to Crocs in the Kitchen.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Jessica. So yes, today we are going to finally get to my tips that I've been promising you guys since we started this Getting Back on Track series. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, back on March 15th, I made a little confession video, which was actually a confession first to myself, right? Then I let Brian in, and then I let you guys in. And honestly, the letting you guys in part was something we both kind of discussed and that I struggled with a little bit. Just because I guess I never want to admit to myself that I've failed at anything, because I am a perfectionist to a T, and I've always been the one who holds myself to that standard.
Yeah.
Nobody else holds me to the perfection standard. That's me. That's all internal. And so letting myself feel like I'd failed, let alone a whole YouTube audience, was a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah, I think for me, I went through a range of sort of emotional states about it. And I had those exact same thoughts. Like, you know, people look to us for inspiration, and so I didn't know how you getting off track would affect people or their opinions of us. And it's like, I'm not saying that like I was afraid we were going to lose like subscribers or viewers or any of that kind of stuff, but I know for me personally, it was like, is this the best way to help people? And eventually we came to the conclusion that it was.
Yeah. And we went through a lot of thought that initial day before releasing the confession video, on whether or not it would help people or not, or all that kind of stuff. Because that's ultimately what we're trying to do with this channel, right?
Yeah. We've stated from the very beginning that at the very least, we just want to be honest, honest as we can be with you guys, our viewers.
Yeah. And I couldn't really keep making videos, I don't think, without putting this out there, because I think the longer it went on without sharing it with you, I would have felt kind of like a fraud, like, oh, here I am and I'm just doing perfect and everything's great. And like, no, that's not how it works. But what I've realized since we released that video is something that I knew before, but you always need a reminder. The vast majority of you guys out there are all here to support us. You're not here to judge us. You're not here to hold us to some crazy standards. People have reached out to me and let me know that us sharing this has helped them out, which is just amazing. Of course, you're always going to have some negative people out there, but like, honestly, I would take tons of negative comments just to help, one or two people who really could get help by this. If you guys are new to our story, we've been following this whole food plant-based lifestyle for about 2 years now.
Yep.
Combined, we've lost over 300 pounds.
Yep.
If you want to learn more about the history of how we got to this point, definitely check out some of the links in our description below, and you can kind of see how we got started. But today is all about this final installment of the Getting Back on Track series, which there is a playlist also linked below if you want to watch the entire Getting Back on Track series of all 5 videos, including this one, in a row. I'll link to that as well. But this final part is all about just tips that I've come up with since getting myself back on track. So as you guys know from the last update video, I have been doing really well for the last, now going on 2 months. I'm actually down about 25 pounds from where I was 2 months ago when I confessed that I had been off track with my diet, and I'm doing really well with it. And so I wanted to share what has worked for me and what has got me back into that mindset. And so hopefully some of this can help you guys out there if you're struggling.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think that Brian should do his announcer voice, because I'm going to be doing majority of the talking in this video because I wrote these tips. I've been, this is my labor of love. He doesn't even know the tips.
They are. I don't even know what the tips are. So I'm looking forward to this as
so
much as you guys are.
I have them on my screen here. So I'm gonna have Brian do his announcer voice and read you guys the tips and then discuss them, and then we'll get Brian's input on some of them as well. And if you guys have any other input or thoughts, obviously always share them in the comments below. Let's get started.
Tip number 1, admit and come to terms with where you are at and what you've done.
It's just so funny to hear you reading it in that voice. Okay. So
you're the one who asked me to do it, so that's on you.
So as I got further and further off track, I started hiding things, and that's always kind of a red flag for me. When I start sneaking around eating food, finding reasons to be alone, whether it be in the car or at work in my office with the door shut, or if I start sort of disappearing, that's when you know that I'm kind of like getting off track. For weeks, I didn't tell anyone what was going on because it was just in my own head then, right? So if I didn't get it out of my head, like my mom after the whole confession thing came out was like, why didn't you tell me? I'd had friends ask me, why didn't you tell me? Of course, Brian's like, why didn't you tell me? But if it's in my own head, and I haven't fully admitted to it yet. It doesn't exist. It's just in my head. And so I think the first step for me was admitting to myself that there is a problem. And, making that original video, like I said, making that video was just as much of a confession to myself as it was to, I didn't even know at that point if anyone else would see it, Brian or anyone at that point. And so it was just kind of laying it all out there and coming to terms with, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I've done. This is, everything. And kind of saying it out loud or even writing it. I love to write, so writing it would be good as well. And even if it's one of those letters you write and seal up in an envelope and don't ever send to anybody, I think that it's for yourself. I am not by any means saying that anybody should go shout it from the rooftop and create a YouTube channel and share it with everybody and be like, I'm off track. That it's interesting because it definitely helps and hurts me in different ways. But having the support of all you guys obviously has helped me, but I don't think that that's necessary. You don't have to be like, go tell everyone, yeah, I messed up. I think it's more about admitting it to yourself, maybe letting some key, close family members, husband, wife, whatever, into it as well. And it's hard for me because we've talked about it a million times before. You're my partner in this. Mm-hmm. And so I want to be able to share it with you. But here's the thing. I can be pretty sneaky when I want to be.
I'm not very sneaky.
And you don't ask questions.
That's true.
He doesn't ask questions. I'm the one asking a million questions. I handle all the finances, so I see the credit card bills. So if there's like a $5 charge from Walgreens, I'm like, Brian, what'd you get at Walgreens? Did you buy I don't know, what'd you get? What'd you do? I'm on top of all this stuff. I see everything that's going on. I hear everything and see everything. And Brian's in his own little world.
That's true.
And so I can very easily get a lot of stuff by without him noticing. But also, I like to hide it from him because I don't want to sabotage him. Because what happens is, if I say, hey, Brian, I cheated, I ate this really bad thing, his brain immediately is going to go to, oh,
I didn't get something.
What can I get? What can I get to make this even playing field here?
Yeah. It's true. The only time that you ever did something like that and I didn't sort of react, it's got to be this. It's a specific type of food. So you said you did the peanut butter cups. Well, I don't really go for peanut butter cups, and so when you were just like, oh, I ate all these peanut butter cups, I was just like, okay, whatever. It's let's move on.
You mean when I told you about the pastry?
Yeah, but when you tell me about going to this bakery that's in St. Louis that's amazing, then I'm just like, but I didn't get a pastry.
Yeah, he's still giving me trouble that he didn't get a pastry.
That's true. I am still giving her trouble.
I actually ate 3 of them, but anyway. But
not so much with the Jimmy John's though. I didn't really care about that one.
Yeah, you did, because you were like, I want a sandwich.
Well, I wanted a sandwich.
You wanted a sandwich.
I wanted a sandwich after
which.
that. Well, I did want which. Yeah, but it's it is what it is.
So that's a reason for me to kind of keep it buried, because I'm like, oh, I don't want him to go into that mode of what can I do to to make up for this, what you've done. And so so it's interesting. I think that's where doing this with a partner is good, but also bad, because you kind of I don't know, they both have their challenges. So the point of this whole tip is just taking that first step of really acknowledging are you where you want to be right now, and what are you actually doing with your, whether it be, and this, I'm talking about this in terms of like the whole food plant-based diet, but this could apply to a lot of different things in your life, right? These same tips or principles could apply to a lot of, maybe it's another diet you're doing or whatever, but yeah, it just is, it's kind of getting yourself to that point where like, okay, here's where we're at. This is, laying it all out there.
Tip number 2. Don't get down on yourself or beat yourself up for what you've done.
So yeah, you need to forgive yourself, right? So you can't change what you've done by driving yourself crazy with guilt, regret, all of that. Instead, I chose to look at this as an opportunity, right? So I was like, this is a chance for me to prove to myself that I can mess up and I can still get back on track. And I've done that so many times in the past. I've just given up and completely gotten to the same point I was at and just completely fell off. And but this time's different. Why is it different this time, do you think, B?
I'm not entirely sure.
It's because we've retrained ourselves.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We've completely changed our lifestyle. So whereas before in the past, it would be, we're counting calories, we're cutting back on this, but we didn't really teach ourselves anything new. We had a different end goal in mind before. It was always, hey, let's lose weight so we can accomplish this particular goal. For you, it was losing weight for the wedding. For me, it was also losing weight for the wedding. But the end goal was always a finite point. It was always, let's get to this point in the near future where we can be healthier. But when we retrained ourselves to focus on the end goal being our long lives of health, sticking to this
yes,
diet.
And sticking to it, that's when everything completely shifted to where now when we talk about getting back to normal, we're actually talking about getting back to eating our whole food plant-based diet. And even for me, when I say getting back to normal, I'm more so even talking about getting our salads every night, eating soup every day or chili or something like that, making sure that my breakfast is a particular way. Because that's the way my brain processes all that information now. I'm not thinking about, I want to get back to the way that I used to eat. I keep thinking, I want to go back to eating salads and soup.
Well, and I think that's the important part of what you said is when we were losing weight before, the end goal was actually to go back to eating like crap, right?
Yep.
It was to go back to eating our old diet and, lose the weight so that we could justify eating bad. And now it's completely shifted to where we just love this, whole food plant-based lifestyle. Like we just love it. And we know that we're in this for the long term. And so I think, you can, if you just keep beating yourself up over doing the bad stuff and eating off track and, and all that, like you can't change the past. You can only change what you're doing going forward. So as long as you have those foundations, I think getting off track, you can really use as an opportunity to prove to yourself, hey, I've got a strong enough foundation that I can get back on to where I need to be. So that's kind of my thinking with that one.
Tip number 3. Take it one meal, one day, 1 week at a time.
So on the very first day of me getting back on track, which I think was on the number 2 video, I think was actually, we did record we showed some of that. So the very first day of me getting back on track, I was so proud of myself just for making it through one meal that was on plan, right? And then after that, it was like 1 day, it was 1 week. Before I knew it, I had a week under my belt, and celebrating the little victories along the way really helped me because it can be overwhelming to think of like, oh man, I have to make it through this entire week eating this way, and I'm not going to be able to eat any of the other stuff. And I'm not going to be able to use, for me, like food is like a big crutch and like it's a thing in my head where if I'm having a bad day, I can say like, I'm having a bad day, but I can eat, this at the end of the day and it'll make me feel better. Like I've used food like that my entire life. And so retraining my brain has been a very long process, and it is something, I talk to my therapist about, and it's definitely a psychological thing for me. But taking it just one step at a time and breaking it down really helped me. So that's what I keep telling to people who ask me like, how should I do it? It's like, just try to get through that one meal, that one day, that one week. And before you know it, like once you get to the week or 2 week kind of threshold, I feel like you really start to, you're back, right? That's when you know you're back. So
I would say in sort of a great philosophical line, and that is the most important step a person can take on a journey is not the first or the last. It's the next one.
ooh, wow, you're fancy.
Tip number 4. Rely on your favorite staple recipes a majority of the time and find a few new recipes to reignite your passion.
So hopefully everybody has a few staple recipes that they're really, that they really rely on. I know for us, it's definitely Brian's chili recipe, linked below if you guys need the link. And our super smoky hummus is a big one. These two, along with our salad prep, our weekly salad prep that we do, our giant salads we eat, have gotten us through a lot of rough patches with our weight loss. And we've lost a lot of weight just eating those main things.
Yep.
And so I think, like he was saying, getting back to eating our salads, it's important for us to go back to the roots of like, okay, this is what we know works for us. We love these things. We enjoy eating them. And it just, getting that first salad prep done after we got back on track, having the fridge that's stocked full of veggies and everything like that, having a giant bowl of chili in there that you could, it's giving yourself, it's setting yourself up for success because you've got everything already, ready to go. So along with that is also, I think it's important to find some new recipes because you can lose your passion for some of this stuff over time. And so for us, it was finding a few new recipes that could really just reignite that passion that we have for eating this way. And trying out the new recipes, it made me feel like I was still getting something special or decadent, even though it was just like a new way of eating our favorite healthy foods anyway. And a big part of this for us has been the health span solution.
Yeah.
So this book that you guys hear us go on and on and on and on and on, and I know we go on about it a lot, but where is it? It's normally, oh, it's right there. It's so close. Should I go get it? I'm gonna go get it. Hi. Okay, you guys have seen us with this a million times. At this point, we probably just seem like salesmen for this book.
Yeah, we should have written the forward for it.
Yeah, Juliana and Ray, next book. But I don't know. This book I can't, the recipe's in here. If you want your passion for cooking and eating this way reignited, I mean, we had these the other night. I don't want to show you the recipe, so hopefully I'm only showing you the photo.
I'll blur it out if it's shown.
It's like these stuffed mushrooms,
Yeah, they were really good.
If you follow us on Instagram, you can see I've been posting photos of stuff we've made from that book. But talk about like reigniting your passion for cooking.
And I guarantee that some of you have some cookbooks that are sitting on a shelf that you've never actually cooked a lot of stuff from.
I have like 10 of them.
Yeah. So those really, really help. Just go and grab one and be like, okay, I'm going to make this particular recipe. Pick something that's not like, you can pick something that's super easy or you can pick something that's super hard. Whatever you really feel like trying out, go ahead and try it out. Get that passion for cooking, if you had it to begin with, back
or
into your pattern.
Maybe if you didn't have that passion, there's so many simple recipes out there that just taste super delicious. And so, finding a few of those. I know a really good YouTube channel that makes really good, simple, mostly simple for the most part, whole food plant-based recipes by one named Brian Croft. But, find some recipes that you love and try them out. And, that to me just made a huge difference with getting back on track because like I said, again, I could still have something that felt special and different, but I was still eating good.
Tip number 5, reflect back on the times when you've been successful and try to revert back to those habits. So
over time, I think when you start anything or you follow a certain way of eating, you get kind of more relaxed over time. And so everything kind of I think sometimes you just need to like reset back to center.
Yeah.
And we started And I think we started making small exceptions that end up leading to bigger ones, and then before you know it, you're kind of like completely off, right? And so I don't think I do want to make a point. I don't think that you should be so super rigid and crazy trying to stick to a plan that there are no exceptions. I don't believe that. I think that that can send you the other way when you start trying to be too, rigid and following stuff, too much. You
start to develop a phobia of certain things, or like a fear of particular foods or that kind of thing.
But we started out after we ate potatoes, we started out with the 6-week plan from Eat to Live. And so it's a very simple list of guidelines. And so I think for me, just reading those guidelines again and being like, okay, this is where we started. We know this worked really well for us. I don't think I'll ever, like, we've changed so much since we started doing this. I don't think I'll ever go 100% back to following those guidelines to a T, because we've just we've adapted over time to make it work for us. But at the same time, getting closer to that, that's something that I can kind of use to fall back on and to try to go back to sticking to those habits, just because I know it worked for us and all that. So I think whether you follow Starch Solution or you follow Eat to Live or whatever you kind of got you into this lifestyle, maybe just kind of go back and reread that book, reread that, whatever it may be, and just kind of get yourself, back in the mode of following those habits.
Tip number 6, educate yourself.
So along with going back to some of your old things that you started with, another good thing is just to find new stuff to educate yourself with. I think that you really can never learn everything that comes along with a whole food plant-based diet. And so there's so much stuff to learn. There's so many books. We have a list of books on our little Amazon page, which is linked in the description below, of some of our favorite books we like, but I'm always constantly looking for new material to read. The Health Span Solution, honestly, for me during this specific time of getting back on track, it also lined up with me reading Health Span Solution and having the opportunity to interview the authors, Juliana Hever and Ray Cronice, in our 2-part video series. If you haven't watched that, please do. I know it's really long, but it really, the stuff we talked about actually really helped me get back on track personally, and learning from them, reading the book, the principles that are outlined in the book. And so I think you can always learn more, whether it be the Health Span Solution or another book that you pick up. Maybe you've never read, whatever, there's a book out there that you've been wanting to read for a while. I actually just got a copy of The Pleasure Trap, which I plan on reading. I know a lot of you have suggested it to me. But just keeping up with that new information, and again, that it's all about just keeping that passion going and learning new things.
Tip number 7, don't snack between meals.
So going back again to our early days of a whole food plant-based diet, snacking between meals was something that I completely eliminated.
I still kind of fall into it occasionally.
You do your apple.
But I'll grab an apple or a banana or something. I'm not eating snacky snack foods. Like
so
chips
for
and
me,
stuff.
When I start snacking in between meals, it's kind of a danger zone for me. It actually makes me more hungry over time, because if I don't eat between meals, I can make it till the next meal, but the moment that I eat something small, then I just want more. And so that's where I think when I was really off track, I was just eating whenever, and I wasn't really, meals weren't even a thing. It was just I was eating whenever I could eat or could sneak the next thing or whatever. And so, it's kind of a simple, clear-cut thing that you can do. There's no gray area, right? It's you're either eating your meal, and I've actually been doing 2 meals a day. I've been doing 11:30 and 6 p.m. Again, that might not work for everybody. Brian does 3 meals a day. What do you do? Your sleep schedule is
way
disaster right now.
It's
but normally
horrible.
You would do about 8:30, 9, noon, and 6:30 or so, 6:37.
Yeah.
So whatever works for you, but I would just say between those meals, don't snack, because that's just going to open you up for more opportunities to, just be eating for the kind of sake of eating and for the entertainment of it versus actually being hungry. So, yeah.
Tip number 8, know your weaknesses.
So, I think we all have those foods that kind of trigger us.
Yes.
One bite and you just like, you have to have more. You just want to keep eating it. For me, it's definitely chocolate. And then a close second would be peanut butter.
Yeah.
So when you combine chocolate and peanut butter, it's like, forget about it. It's like, there's no going back. So peanut butter is pretty easy for me to avoid, actually. We have it in the fridge all the time. Yeah. Brian always has peanut butter because he usually eats it with his breakfast. We usually have some on hand for the dogs if they need pills or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So peanut butter is pretty much always on hand. But for me, with peanut butter, I can say in my head, okay, unless I'm eating a sensible portion of this as part of a meal, and that's my nut, we try to limit our nuts and seeds per day to a certain amount, like 1 to 1.5 ounces a day. Mm-hmm. Unless it's in that 1 to 1.5 ounce that I'm eating, I don't eat it. And I can kind of do that. Now, some people can't do that. So maybe peanut butter is something you can't have around right now, right? Chocolate, on the other hand, I can't regulate chocolate. Like I had these like Lily's chocolate bars, which are like stevia sweetened chocolate bars. And I would just like, I'd break them up into little squares and be like, oh, I'll just eat 1 square a day. And then it's like, before you know it, the second day, half the bar's gone. And you're like, wait, what? Because you just eat one at a time and you just keep kind of sneaking them. And again, this guy doesn't notice anything. I could go in the pantry and sneak like 15 little tiny pieces of chocolate. And he's just like, he doesn't notice. Like, if he did that, I would be like, what are you doing? Why are you in the pantry so much? But you're just in your own little world.
It's true.
So I kind of decided when I did the whole getting back on track, I was like, okay, I'm not going to bring any chocolate in to the house except for like unsweetened cocoa powder. Because I figured that way, if I'm eating something that's chocolatey, it's not just going to be straight like, eating an entire chocolate bar or something. Yeah. I'm going to eat it with some, as nice cream, like the nice cream I like to make. And what I've actually been doing is making the chocolatey nice cream shake that I shared as a recipe a few weeks ago. So we'll link to that below. But I've been eating that at the end of the night. And in the beginning, during the first few weeks of getting back on track, that was kind of like my nightly reward for making it through another day. So after I'd eat my giant salad, I'd have my chocolate and ice cream shake. And it was just it was good. I didn't feel bad about eating it. I just kind of it was just like my little reward. And then over the few weeks, over like the last 2 months, I've gotten to the point where it's not like at one point I kind of needed that as a crutch to get through each day. And I'm not ashamed to say that, like I just did. But now I don't use it as a crutch anymore. I haven't had the chocolate one for like the last couple of days and I'm fine. Like I'm not gonna but I still like to do it several nights a week.
You have been doing shamrock shakes though.
Yeah, those have been really good. But yeah, it's just kind of like whatever your weakness is, make sure you're aware of it and figure out if you can incorporate it into your diet and have it be controlled, or if it's something that you just totally need to eliminate for a certain period of time. Mm-hmm. Because it really can just be those couple of things that really throw you off. And I think for me, if I hadn't had anything chocolate, then I would have been looking for other things as a crutch. And so just allowing myself that nice little shake, that little treat at the end of the night really helped me.
Tip number 9, don't get too focused on the labels.
So back in February, before I got off track, I had actually, this is not something we've really discussed in depth on the channel, but I had actually kind of been thinking for several months that I wanted to switch to eating 100% vegan. So I wanted to eliminate everything that wasn't vegan from my diet. Now, you guys know we never claim to be ethical vegans. We don't claim to, we got in this for the diet. That being said, for the weight loss part of it. that being said, we have the utmost respect for all of you have chose this for, the ethical reasons. And I honestly think that it's one of the greatest choices that anybody could make. And I wish I could have been like good enough to make that decision without, the whole thing of like, hey, you can lose all this weight as my incentive. But that being said, I've learned so much, and I don't miss meat at all. I don't even miss cheese really, because I have so many good like cheese sauce substitutes that I can eat now. I really don't even miss cheese. And so I just kind of came to the conclusion, like, I just didn't need to have any of that stuff. So why even have it? And so we had, I drug Brian down my little like last hurrah rabbit hole that time. I remember it was a Monday. And we had like a little like, I was like, okay, if I'm not going to eat anything that's not vegan going forward, I need to get all this like last stuff in before that, like last hurrah, because that's how I always work when it comes to this stuff. And so a lot of it was like, oh, remember we went to that chocolate factory? Ooh. Anyway, so yeah, so we did that. And then I was like, okay, that's it. Like, I'm not eating any. I think one of the last things I ate was Cheez-Its and Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
God.
It was such a low quality level of what I wanted. But, like, that's what I wanted. But then I was, after I gave myself, not that I was labeling myself as vegan at that point, but after I gave myself that label of, like, I'm not going to eat anything that's not vegan going forward, it really messed with me.
Yeah.
It was weird.
You then started eating more things that were vegan but weren't whole food plant-based.
Yeah. I started eating a lot of like wheat thins were like the big one.
Yeah.
And actually I remember walking down the grocery store aisle when we were doing our last hurrah. Well, my last hurrah.
That one last hurrah that wasn't the last hurrah.
My last hurrah. And I was looking for I actually was looking for a tiny box of Cheez-Its because I wanted just a small amount. And I saw the wheat thins and I was like, oh, wheat thins are vegan. And I kind of said to myself in my head, well, if wheat thins are vegan, I even said this to Brian. I was like, I can totally stick to, even on cheat days, never eating anything that's not vegan because I can have wheat thins and that's all I need. So then wheat thins stuck in my head, and that's when I started like buying boxes of wheat thins and eating them by the box and like just all this craziness. It was just insane. It's weird because I normally eat vegan like 99% of the time anyway. But then when I suddenly was like, I'm never going to be able to eat anything that's not vegan again, that's when I kind of even started going back in my head and like, oh man, on my last hurrah, I didn't get to go to that bakery and get those pastries I wanted. I didn't get this. I didn't get that. And so that's kind of, again, what got me off the rails because I kept thinking of things like, oh, well, and so then it became like a month or two of just like, okay, well, let's get this all in and then we'll get back on with that. And so I just think that the even crazier part is since I've gotten back on track, I haven't really thought in my head like, oh, I'm never going to eat anything that's not vegan again. But I've been, for the last 2 months, I've been 100% vegan, like on the food. Like I've eaten 100% of what I've eaten has been vegan without even trying to label it that way. And so I just think sometimes we get too focused on like looking at the future and being like, this is going to be the permanent everything be all end all. And I think you just have to give yourself a little bit more flexibility when it comes to that stuff.
Be like water, my friend.
What does that mean?
It's Bruce Lee.
Oh.
Tip number 10. Don't forget to keep having fun.
So Brian always gets on me because whenever we write these little tip lists, my last one is always have fun. He's always like, we always say that. But really have fun with it. Like this lifestyle can be so much fun and it can bring you so much joy. And I think you can take time to, like I said, to learn new things, make new friends. We've made so many friends through switching to this lifestyle, like lifelong, we'll be friends till the end kind of people.
Yep, absolutely.
Try out new foods, travel to new places whenever travel's a thing again and try new foods in those places. Like there's so many things that it can open you to. And a lot of people think that following this lifestyle is like super restrictive, but in reality, it has opened us to a whole new world of stuff that we would have never tried before. And, it's been just this great adventure for us. And so I couldn't imagine like doing my life any other way. So I think that is really important, is to make sure you're having fun with it. Because if you just it's just this restrictive, labeled, like, if it's just like a job for you, it's not something you're gonna be able to sustain. But if it's something that you enjoy and that you have fun with, then it's something you can continue for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I know for us, we're goofy people. We've always been goofy people. And frankly, I don't know anybody who is really in the whole food plant-based community that isn't goofy in some way, shape,
They're
or form.
all secretly goofy.
We're all weird folks. Trust me, we've been chatting with a bunch of them, and
they're all goofy.
Everybody's just weird, okay? And we love it. We love this community so much. And so we've always been like that. But I mean, for us, even doing something as goofy as like naming our soups, like weird green soup. It's like nobody's gonna actually name their soup weird green soup, but we did because we're goofy people and we felt it was necessary to do so. But that's just, it's one of the things that we really do like to hammer home, and that is if I call this an adventure, because an adventure is something that is supposed to be out there that's like, yes, this is the grand adventure that we're going on. We're bushwhacking through jungles. We're, going through the desert and enjoying like all that kind of fun stuff, right? And I know deserts don't sound like fun, but that's beside the point. But it's supposed to be that kind of a thing. That's why I reinforce that this is a weight loss adventure, because you're supposed to be having fun while going through this process. It's that simple. Have fun with it.
So on that note, I think I'm actually just going to read the last little bit of my blog post here for you guys. This is my little thank you part. So I just want to say a huge thanks goes out to everyone who has watched, commented, and reached out to me over the past few months. It means more than I can express to have such a caring group of people that's surrounding me. I hope that these tips and our entire Getting Back on Track series has been helpful to some of you who are out there struggling as well. I know this won't be the last time that I fall down, but I can move forward with the confidence that I have fallen and picked myself back up. To me, that's worth everything that I've gone through during this process, and I would do it all over again the same way if given the chance. Today, I am stronger. Today, I am ready to take anything on.
Nice.
So that was the end of my little blog post. So if you want to read the full blog post that has all the tips that we just went through in one nice little place and all of that like inspirational material, definitely click on the blog post linked below and go to the website. Otherwise, you can follow us on...
You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, any of those types of social media places.
I need to log into Pinterest again.
Yeah, you probably do need to do that again. But you can definitely follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Those are our two primary places. And you can message us on there. Remember, if you message us on Instagram, you will get Jessica. If you message us on Facebook, you will get me. And I try to respond. I know Jessica tries to respond. We really do try to keep up with all the messages that you guys send us. So keep sending them. We thank you in advance for communicating with us. Also, if you haven't subscribed, it would be awesome if you did. So click that subscribe button and click the bell that is right next to it so you can get notified whenever we post a new video. Also, if you want to, you can like and share the video. Just click that little thumbs up video on there, or you can click thumbs down. I'm not going to, hold it against you if you do. Or you can share it out to different places like Facebook and whatnot, and share it amongst your friends and your goofy people who happen to be on the whole food plant-based adventure. But Jessica,
yes,
I definitely think that is all we got.
Yes.
We will see you next time on Crocs in the Kitchen. Bye.
Now let's go get peanut butter cups.
No!